Hey guys, welcome. I appreciate your time. Hi, how are you? So I made me post welcome to Advocacy and Hope. And I appreciate you guys giving me a little bit of time tonight for this live Facebook event. So today's been one of those rough days. I'm sure everybody can understand you have, big things planned, lots of responsibilities, and all of a sudden your day just goes sideways. And that's kind of how mine has gone. And, I really just thought about what this podcast event would be. And I think that, after really kind of sitting back and thinking about what this event would be, one, it needed to be live, and two, it just really needed to have some emotion with it. So one of the things I really wanted to do was, be able to just talk one-on-one. I've had a lot of questions that have been asked. And of course, my book is launching. It will ship out on May 7th, but it is available now. I do actually have my book. I'll start doing different events and book signings and things like that. My husband is not able to be included in the event tonight. He is with someone else. He has other responsibilities that were more important this evening and just has other friends that really need him right now. For me, that's huge. I want everyone to be able to make the most of their time. So what I want to do tonight is really just kind of, for those that aren't aware of my story, I want to take you back just a little bit, but I don't want to go over the entire story about what happened, but I want to ask you a few questions. We'll kind of do some Q&A, that sort of thing. But one of the things that I want to do to start with is I want to thank a few individuals. I want to thank Joy FM. Joy FM it's a local radio station. So if you guys are not aware of it, I think you can possibly get it anywhere. You can download the app. It is a Christian radio station that I have listened to for over 15 years. And it was one of the things that saved me more than anything. It really helped me just get to the other side and find hope and joy, and something that I never imagined that I would actually find in music. And so that was huge for me. So thank you, Joy FM, for everything that you've done. I've been a supporter for over 15 years. I don't need anything from Joy FM. I just want to give back. So I really appreciate that. And I also just want to talk a little bit more about sleep and really good health. I still struggle immensely with getting good sleep and just that fear and anxiety that comes over us all the time. And I want to thank My Pillow because they have been one of the biggest supporters for me, and they came in and offered me the ability to try a ton of their products, and it has been such a huge advantage for me to be able to get better sleep and also just kind of give back to myself. So I love all of their products and I really appreciate it, but I love their story. The gentleman who started the company is amazing. His story is absolutely phenomenal, and if you have not checked him out, please do, or check out mypillow.com. Look into it. You can order his book. He's fantastic. But this is a story of grit, determination, changing your life around. And I think many of you, if you were to kind of hear his story, a lot of you might have, written him off, but he's a force to be reckoned with. So thank you so much to My Pillow. It has been, my pleasure to work with you over the last several months. I'd like to ask you a question, and I try to enter these with those questions that'll really get you to thinking about your life, your purpose, things that are happening to you. But right now, I think just remembering those times, if you've ever thought about a statistic that you heard and you absolutely did not want to be a part of that statistic, what was it? And you can think positive, negative, whatever it is. And statistics are everywhere out there, but I know we all have them. And it's something that kind of just eats away at us if we hear those statistics that we really, really, really want to overcome. And I think it's pretty cool. One of the things that I think I've mentioned a few times, but it's my 90-10 rule. When my daughter was diagnosed with malignant liver cancer at age 3, I remember being thrown into the healthcare system and being completely terrified, unsure about what we were going to do, and obviously not knowing what was coming next. I remember the first morning that I woke up, about 4:35 a.m. is kind of my internal alarm that went off. And I had a meeting with our mentor that was scheduled in, I think, maybe approximately an hour. And I walked over across the room to the little coffee area. And I hadn't slept all night long. We had just been given the diagnosis that our 3-year-old had malignant liver cancer, and I was mortified. And we hadn't even been given the additional terrifying, horrible news. We had only been given the news that she had malignant liver cancer and was into the hospital. Chemotherapy was scheduled, blood transfusions, platelet transfusions, and it was terrifying. We knew that it was bad. She was then told that she had to have a full liver transplant. So I remember walking across the hallway to the coffee area that next morning about 5 a.m. And I saw a gentleman in there, and I just needed somebody to talk to. to. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "What are you in here for?" It's as if we were given some jail sentence. And what I didn't know then, I certainly know now. It felt like it then, but it certainly felt like it afterwards. And the gentleman stated that his son had been diagnosed with cancer about the age of my daughter, around 3 or 4. He'd been in the hospital with his wife for several years, and then they were in remission, and then he was back. And his son was 13, and he was diagnosed with brain cancer. I remember telling myself, as I walked out of that room, that I didn't have one single thing to feel bad about. I had to get myself together. I had to count my blessings, and I had to find something every single day to be grateful for, because our life had forever changed. And I knew in those hours it was never going to be the same. We were given a diagnosis that not many can comprehend. But when I spoke with that gentleman in the coffee room, I remember thinking, I have to figure this out quickly. What am I going to do? And I think when we're put in situations like that, we either thrive through it, or we falter and fall behind. And I don't think that it's anything. I don't think it's our fault sometimes. I think just we don't have the tools in our toolbox to be able to handle things that come our way and are placed on our doorstep, and we didn't invite them, we didn't ask for them, but what do we do when they arrive? And I think for my story, it was huge in just knowing there were other individuals there that had situations that were worse than mine. So you never know what is happening with the person standing next to you, no matter where you are or what you're doing. You don't know what is occurring in their life, and you don't know how they're feeling. I then went to the meeting with the mentor, and I was feeling a little bit better because I thought, okay, a liaison, a mentor, this is going to be something hopefully good. And I remember I was given a stack of papers in folders and binders, probably at least, 12 inches tall. And it was just overwhelming. And we were given the overview of kind of what our daughter's life was going to be like with, the malignant liver cancer and the diagnosis she had been given. And I remember the woman said to me, 90% of couples get divorced and children die. So you just need to be prepared. And I remember that statistic of the 90-10 sticking in my brain. And it's almost 10 years later. August will be 10 years. And that 90-10 has burned its way through my system. And I have spent the last many years trying to figure out the why of the 90% that get divorced and the 10% that stay together. How, why, where are they now? And I think that I made that one of my biggest missions to try to figure out, but I think it got my mind off of everything that we were going through as well. It was something that was, I think, able to allow me something just different to think about. So that led me into creating and I guess elaborating on my why. And as we kind of roll things forward, it has been a bittersweet situation. It was the hardest situation I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. And if you are going through something that is extremely challenging or traumatic, you are not alone. This is something that I want you to know, that I'm building something that hopefully will give you things that I didn't have. As I look back, I remember all the research that I did and the connections and the support system and everything that I needed to do, because we had a pretty grim situation. It was as grim as you could get it. Nothing seemed to be positive. At every turn, the floor fell out. Thought we would take a step forward, but we would take numerous steps back. And so through all of this, I think I was able to really create that why. And I've had a lot of questions of people asking, why did you write the book? What now? What is this going to look like? And I am still in that situation where I'm figuring it out, and it's okay to continue to figure it out. The really great thing is that my why is just this burning passion in my belly to bring some topics and some resolutions to you if you are struggling with things out there and you just don't know where to turn. If you have had traumatic situations, challenges that have really kind of taken a toll on you in different arenas, I want you to know that this is a really safe, great community to join. So that is what I am starting. I hate that my husband can't be here with me tonight. I think that it would have been great to have him here, but knowing that he is taking care of one of his friends that needs him more than I need him right now has been really good. And I think every single time that I speak about our situation, get behind a camera, I am emotional because it has just been a bittersweet almost 10 years. But I'm here to tell you that challenge will hit you no matter if you're waiting for it, aware of it, you didn't welcome it, it's going to be there. And as I took myself through my journey, I wanted to develop something that would allow me to not have some of the hardships that I had the first time. Because not only did the doctors tell us that our daughter at age 3 was given a diagnosis of malignant liver cancer, hepatoblastoma of the liver, she also had a rare genetic cancer gene that would bring 2 additional cancers. And they're pretty spot on. But the thing I think once I dug in and really started doing my research is that this rare genetic cancer gene does not make money, so no one studies it. There is no more than maybe one study on this FAP genetic gene that I have been able to receive. And I have hope that we can really turn this around and things won't be as grim, the next few times around. But what I have to also be is realistic with what has been handed to us as a family. And what I do know is that I won't go through it alone like I did in the beginning. I'm going to take you back just a little bit because for those of you that know me and or don't know me, it may not seem like I was alone. But when we were given that diagnosis of my daughter kind of dumped off into the hospital, into the system, it's not a nice place to be. It's scary. It's terrifying. There's never any good news. We were sick every time we turned around. My daughter had 70 some procedures under anesthesia within the first 12 months. I just didn't think I was going to be able to breathe any longer. I wanted to take a step back and just hide in the corner and cry and not face tomorrow because I just didn't know how I was going to face it. But my gut and my instincts gave me the ability to just push forward. I realized it was God speaking through me. Maybe it wasn't my intuitions at all because my faith was rattled, absolutely rattled. I couldn't find God in that hospital. It's a really tough place to find God if you're ever there for an extended period of time, and we were there for a few years. And so I think that I want to mention that because it's okay. You don't always have to have that faith. It can be rattled. But what I realized was that I think God was speaking through me and allowing me to advocate for myself, for my daughter, and for others. We saw huge, huge issues within the healthcare system. We saw massive amounts of mistakes. We saw no responsibility being taken, and that was unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable for my daughter and for any other patient that was in there. From that moment on, from the first day, I realized I had a job underneath my belt and I could either take it or I could leave it. When we were first diagnosed and brought up those elevators, let off and brought to our private room, which wasn't overly common at that point. We had a whole private room to ourselves. And I remember one of the physicians walking in, and I remember just tears falling down my face and me asking, why is this happening to us? I don't understand. I'm trying to understand everything that you have just told us in the massive amount of hours that we have been waiting and having, numerous tests done, trying to understand and comprehend all of this. And I remember him kneeling down, and I appreciate that. That was fine. He was getting on my level, I suppose. But he uttered the words, "You just have bad luck." And from that moment on, I vowed that this was probably not going to be an easy battle. And it wasn't just her cancer that I was talking about. It was going to be the battle with the healthcare system and what was going to happen to us. And if I wanted to get out of there, I needed to figure it out quick. And so I spent every waking moment researching, trying to find out everything I could about her diagnosis. And then when we found out about her FAP genetic gene, I did everything I could. I reached out to my support systems. Everybody. Educating yourself is huge. It's first and foremost. So if you are going through anything right now, whatever the challenge is, I really lean into you right now to do a ton of research and ask questions and push back and make sure that you are the expert on what you are going through. Because I will guarantee you that the people that you're looking at and asking those questions that are telling you do not know all the answers. They don't. We give them too much credit. They can learn something at every turn. And that's why I called massive amounts of meetings with the directors of everyone at Children's Hospital. Numerous meetings. Things weren't right. Protocols weren't right. Charting wasn't right. Medications were messed up. They couldn't read allergy bands on her wrists and her ankles. Just it never went away. I honestly just want you to be able to stand up for yourself and advocate, push back, ask why. There is no harm in doing that. You are protecting yourself and others. And I guarantee you, if you will stand up for someone, it will come back to you tenfold over in positivity. I didn't actually realize what was happening when I was advocating for her. I think I was just trying to keep my head above water. I was completely lost. And one of my best friends was in a different state who had a child that had cancer as well. And we were fighting it together. Cell phone, texting, anything that we could do to just keep each other above water. And I love her. And she's in the book. It's just one of those things that you need people more than anything when you are going through challenges. And the ability to be that person for someone else and have that strength, man, there's nothing like it in the world. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'll get off that soapbox. I'm going to start answering some questions because I'm afraid I'm going to just cry off all my makeup. I really just want to thank all of you so much for reaching out to me, all of your support, telling me that everything I was doing was completely worth it because I needed to hear those things. Maybe I look all put together, but a mess inside. And so for you to reach out to me it's meant so much. So if there is somebody else in your life that you know that's going through something, I encourage you to reach out to them. One, to make sure they're okay. One, to just kind of pour into them. Just take a step back from your life, from your drama, from your sadness, from your happiness, from whatever you are doing at that moment, to just really think about somebody else and lean into them. I will tell you, my day has been horrific. And I know that yours probably has been the same. We all deal with the same kind of challenges. We'll take a little step back right here. And I want to just answer a few questions that are coming in, and then we can kind of get back to a little bit of this. But I do want to show you guys once again, if you haven't seen the book, it's called Out of the Gray into the Light. It is a mother's memoir of advocacy and hope. It's available on Amazon and any major retailer. If you know of anyone who could use support, who could use some hope, some joy, some encouragement, would you pass that along to them right now? You can always go to those major retailers. You can also go to my website at amypost.com and you can read a little bit about me. If you're just not sure who I am, you're a little unsure about who is this person, read a little bit about me and about my story. And I have the prologue and I believe the first chapter on there that you can read as well, but you can also order the book. That would mean everything to me if you could pass that on to friends and family or somebody in need. And I appreciate that so much because a portion of the proceeds will go to Make-A-Wish. When my daughter was involved in Make-A-Wish, it was one of the most moving things I think I've ever been involved with. And in the book, you will see some incredible stories and pictures from our family that we developed and these people that they didn't know us. They don't know any of these patients, but they give their precious time and their energy to these families that are suffering. And I cannot thank them enough for the time and the energy that they spent on us and all of these other families because it does not go unseen. And it is huge because I didn't want to see it at the time, what it actually looked like, because I think I was just in the middle of the storm. But when I took a step back and realized how much they impacted our family, I wanted to give back. So for Make-A-Wish, I appreciate you and I appreciate our family at Make-A-Wish and I appreciate everybody that volunteers and just gives their time to them because it's really appreciated. Even if you're not exactly sure if what you're doing is having that much impact, I will guarantee you that it is. Just keep on doing what you're doing. And if you haven't volunteered and you're thinking about it, Make-A-Wish is a really great place to put some emphasis and have some real impact on some families that need you. We're going to transition for a moment. So we've got some questions coming in. I'm going to read some of these. I've had other questions coming in stating that we have some people that are going to be traveling and they're not able to text, which I understand. Thank you for being safe. One of the first questions that I received was, what was the most surprising surprising thing that you learned while writing the book? Granted, I did not want to write this book. This was not actually my decision. It was finally after I just admitted to myself that it was what needed to be done. But in the fall of 2022, I realized that something at that time very scary and terrifying was happening to me because I was remembering all of the traumatic memories and the years that happened. And I didn't know what to do with those memories because I had pushed them under the rug and I had moved forward. I had dealt with some of them. I had done my due diligence, I thought, and I thought I was doing pretty well, but I wasn't. And so for me, the most surprising thing while writing this book was that I could emotionally get through it because it was gut wrenching. And I poured my heart out in this book about what happened to my daughter, what happened to our family, and advocating for yourself and for others. And then as you get through the book, you just have this eye-opening awakening that occurs in me, and it is just truly bittersweet. It's amazing to be able to look back through your situation with different lenses and see it completely different. But I talk about it all in the book, and I go through things that I know that a lot of people out there can resonate with, and just know that you're not alone. For me, the surprising part was that I was emotionally able to handle it because I had really put a lot of that behind me. And to me, I couldn't understand what the purpose of what we went through was at that time because we had gone through so many years of trauma and devastation and almost, our family falling apart, almost divorce between my husband and I couldn't understand how it was just gone. And I think that awakening in 2022 was what I absolutely needed. Now I dug in my heels. I didn't want to write the book. It was terrifying. And once I did, it was bittersweet. I connected with my publishing company. They're faith-driven, just amazing human beings. And the story about how I met them is pretty cool. And how I actually met the woman who published my book is like a story you've never even imagined. And so I just hope that you will take this journey with me and dive in because it's some pretty cool situations. So thank you for that question because I didn't think that I had it in myself to write that book because it was too difficult and I didn't want to go back and relive all those memories that were so painful. And I didn't think that there was anything that was going to be positive that would come out of it. But what I did learn was that it was the most healing opportunity that I ever allowed myself to have and that God ever allowed me to have because I remember just collapsing one day and not knowing what I was going to do. And this thought of a book in my head, and maybe I should just journal it. I'll just write it down on paper. That didn't work. And I started, doing recordings. That didn't seem to suffice what I needed. There was this burning. There was something else that was going on. And I think that why was erupting so intensely in me and allowing me to see the person that I was supposed to be. And that next journey is really on its way. Take a step back if no one understands. I've been in medical sales for 20 years. My husband and I own numerous businesses. I've been in medical sales. And so this is a completely new journey for me. This is absolutely out of my realm, out of my comfort zone. I'm so uncomfortable. I've wanted to throw up numerous days, and I think I have thrown up several days. So please don't feel bad if you're having these desires and just fire in your belly of there's something that is, I don't know, just really chasing you. That's what I felt like. I was just being chased. I couldn't get away from this desire. So please go for all of your dreams. Next question. What lessons did you learn when writing the book? Great question. There were so many lessons along the way, but I think first and foremost to trust myself. That's huge. Invest in myself. Be genuine. This was my opportunity to take off the mask, unveil myself, absolutely be raw and real and be myself. I had an opportunity that was given to me to be able to do this. And I'm so glad that I took it because there were moments within writing this book. I remember calling my publisher and telling her that I couldn't go on. I couldn't do it. It was too tough. I was done. I was famished. I was exhausted. I was upsetting my family. Things were just not going the way that I thought they should go. And I was utterly wanting to just jump into that corner and cry. And I remember her telling me that I couldn't give up now. There's absolutely no way that I could give up, because she felt so passionate about what this book could do and how it could help people out there going through challenges and trauma and getting through something that is so devastating. She said, you don't have a choice. And I remember getting back up and realizing that this is what I had to do. I had to continue to do this. And that also, I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned is to not take a moment for granted. You have no idea when life will hand you something that you don't know what to do with. There's not one person around you that can give you that playbook and tell you exactly what you're supposed to do. Some of these experiences are life-changing, and they land on our doorstep whether we ask for them or not. And what I can give you as my advice is to not take one moment for granted. And I remember telling my husband after my daughter was diagnosed that I would never be the same person. I wasn't the same person. And I'm so glad that I'm not the same person. I would never have wanted to be anywhere else but by my daughter's side, showing her how much I loved her and how much I would do anything for her. And I know we haven't gotten into a lot of the details, but if you've watched any of the podcasts, and if you haven't, you can certainly go to Spotify and Apple and watch some of my original individual podcast by myself. I really detailed the situation that we went through and the grim diagnosis that we were given. And it might be able to give you just a little bit more color and clarity around it. But my story could have been really, really grim throughout. It could have been really dark and really awful and continuously terrifying, but I just couldn't have it be that. There had to be something more. And I think when I look back at the lessons, life is short. It is precious. When you get any time to spend with those you love, or those that you just in your support system, or those that have been there for you and encouraged you, just don't ever take it for granted. That's my best advice and one of the best lessons that I ever learned. And I know that everybody says, oh, I'll just send somebody a text message, or I'm sure they're fine. I want you to pick up the phone tonight or tomorrow or this week and reach out to somebody that you haven't reached out to in a while. Somebody that is just on your heart. Somebody that has maybe just come up in those moments where you're like, wow, that was kind of weird about thinking about that person. Or maybe somebody that you met today and they're really having a hard time and they're struggling. I encourage you to reach out to them and just send them a message and ask them how they are, and let them know that you are thinking about them, because I will guarantee you that will be one of the greatest things that you could ever do for that person. And it's free, and it didn't take much of your time. I remember sitting in that hospital room hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, and we would go home for 24 hours. And we would come back for 4 weeks. And I remember wondering if anyone remembered that we were there after everyone had kind of come and gone. And it was really just kind of over. We were there. It wasn't the party any longer where everyone cared and everybody was there. It was new. Everyone left and we were there by ourselves. And those individual text messages and phone calls that we received, I still remember it like it was yesterday. And those cards and those prayers, I can feel those prayers in my bones still to this day. I remember sitting on the ledge in that hospital room, looking out over Forest Park and watching the ice skaters. And then as the seasons changed, we would watch the runners. And then as the seasons changed again, we would watch snowfall after ice skaters, after runners. And I remember just clinging to my hope that people remembered that we were still there. I encourage you to do that. Please reach out to somebody. You have no idea how much it could help. Wow, this is a good one. And I may have touched on it just a little bit, but what did your family think about you writing the book? This one's tough. I think anybody that has written a book, that is a question that they're probably asked. But with my situation, it was very difficult because I was bringing my daughter, who was 3 when this happened, and now she's 13. And I was trying to explain to her how much I needed this for my healing, but also I just had this burning in me that it had created this why to help people understand their why. And needing to heal was one of the greatest things, but letting my daughter know that I would never sacrifice her was huge. So we were on emotional roller coasters every single day, with me trying to, one, she's 13, so she's very emotional anyway, but then having to deal with something like this. She felt that I was dragging her back through all of those emotions. And I remember being jolted back to the fall of 2022. All of those feelings and the memories and everything coming back to me. And I remember how horrifying it felt and how terrifying it felt to remember all of those things. And I remember weeping and weeping and weeping day after day, week after week, month after month, because I understood what she was feeling. But I needed to get her to the other side of that wall, because when my journey began, I needed to get to the other side of that wall more than I needed to stay in my state of stuck and where I was. Anybody can imagine trying to walk a 13-year-old girl through anything. We all know. I mean, it's hard enough to get them to clean their room or do their homework, or God forbid, they break a bone or something happens. But we are very honest with our daughter, and she knows everything that has happened to her. She knows her diagnosis. And so we do not sugarcoat anything, and we don't lie to her. That was maybe a benefit and a curse as well. But for me, I had to stand up for what I believed in, and I didn't want to hold anything back. And I knew that she could make decisions on her own. And through the last year, I think I've been able to help her become a stronger young lady, stronger individual, somebody who's not scared to show her scars, somebody who's not scared to tell her story and to share it with everybody, because she has no idea of who she's going to impact. But that was not without sacrifice of going through that. And I remember sitting just like I did in the hospital outside that room, and she was so angry and hated me so much. I remember sitting outside of her bedroom several nights and wondering if what I had done was the right decision. Was my healing worth bringing her any more pain? And I remember just praying to God that I could find some answers and understanding how to just speak to her and what this was going to sound like. And I needed this assistance. I needed somebody to be able to help me. And through she and I communicating and talking about our feelings and me just asking her questions, I was able to really, I think, help her navigate through her feelings of what had happened so many years ago as well. Because as you will learn, we put so many feelings and emotions and situations underneath that rug. We couldn't see over the rug any longer. And I remember when I whipped back that rug, it was like a tornado hit our family. But it was positive because my daughter being able to understand what's going on with her and being able to know without a shadow of a doubt that she is going to take this world by storm and encourage people. It's just going to be such a beautiful thing, and I can't wait to see it. So I needed to kind of walk through those desperate valleys and those times where I was so uncertain to be able to get to the other side of that wall, but it wasn't easy. The long answer to that question. My son had a different experience too. We talked about many things. We'll talk about that moving forward. And my husband and I had a different conversation as well. We've had, 9 years that we've had to really work at it. It's been very difficult, but neither one of us ever wanted to give up. And it was only by the grace of God that at different times in this, when he and I were so broken at those moments, that one or the other one of us said, I will not give up on you. And I remember that now, looking back and not really thinking too much into it at the point, but I do now. Neither of us allowed the other one to give up because the grass wasn't going to be greener on the other side. But my husband realized that this book for me was healing. And if I could help one person, it was going to be all worth worth it. And then my husband realized that this was not just about me healing. It was about me really leaning into my why and being able to help others who are going through struggles like this know that you can hit rock bottom, but it's how you get back up, and it's who you surround yourself with, and it's what you do next, and it's not giving up. And I want to give all the encouragement and hope that I can possibly give to everybody out there listening tonight. And if you'll share this, I would be so appreciative. It would be wonderful if we could just touch lives and have somebody that we could just help. So for me to be able to give that hope, encouragement, and some sort of peace and joy to people out there was huge for me, because there were so many years that were darker than I ever want to admit. And I talk about it in the book. And I hope that you will grab a copy and read it, because I want you to know that you have the ability to tell your story. And your story is so beautiful and it is so meaningful. And I just want you to share your story. What would you have changed about the last several years? That's a tough one. I think when we all go through challenges, and then we are faced with trauma, and we are faced with huge decisions and how this is going to affect our life, and the trickle down effect. I don't want to be one of those that looks backwards and thinks about what I would have changed. I am now looking forward and looking at everything that I can do differently in the future, because our family, we don't have the opportunity to offload the diagnosis that our daughter has been given and sort of the playbook that our family has been given. Now, whether or not it plays out, true, we don't know. And I pray every single day, and we do a lot of things to help her health and improve her health, to hopefully that's not where she's going to be. But I also have to be realistic, because she's already into the second cancer. She has lots and lots of colon polyps, and this is not just normal colon cancer. You know, colon cancer is treatable. This is something that does have a aggressive, rare genetic cancer gene that really wreaks havoc to your body. So it's something that I've had to deal with, and I've had to overcome. I wouldn't change anything in the past, because it brought me to exactly the place that I am sitting right now. And I couldn't be more blessed than I am right now, sitting here, being able to express this to you out there. And if there is one person that I touch, then it was all worthwhile. What I am going to do in the future is change things to make the future even brighter for myself and for so many others, because what I want to create is a gigantic community that is going to really dive into how to advocate for yourself and for others. And if you're just not where you want to be, what does that look like? And advocating for your future, because once again, it's not if challenge is going to land on your doorstep, it's when. And how will you stand up? How will you show up for your family? What will you do? And what does that look like? Because I'm telling you, we can't deny that preparation for anything is key. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you can't be that procrastinator in life and show up to something and have everything turn out well. It just doesn't work out that way. And I'm sure that, those tests that we all crammed for earlier in life, probably a lot of them didn't turn out so well either. It's the preparation and what we do and how we show up. All right, so the next question is, why did you write the book if you didn't want to? I saw many things on your podcast, especially your original podcast. And thank you so much for being so vulnerable. Thank you. Thank you for being so vulnerable and opening yourself up. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you, but I do wonder why you wrote the book if you didn't want to so badly. I opened myself up in those podcasts because I really wanted to reach out and have connections with others. I isolated myself for a very long time, and I became fearful. I didn't deal with the first cancer that my daughter went through because I was in a tornado and the storms were so fierce. It was just something I had never even been able to prepare myself for, to go through something like that. So I wanted to write this book for so many reasons, after digging in my heels, and I think I went through it in my answers a little bit earlier about how much I love my daughter and I want to be there for her and I want to show her, you can do anything you set your mind to, and you can't be bullied. And I talk about that a lot in the book too. We were bullied time and time again by family, by physicians, by the hospital system. We were bullied consistently. You have to stand up for what you believe in, and you can't bow down, and you can't tell anybody else that your value is less than somebody else's. And I think that I had no other choice than to write this book when I realized that I could change lives with it. I could honestly change lives. And I could show people that their value is huge, no matter what their story is. It is so special and beautiful and remarkable and meaningful. You have to share your story. Now, whether or not you're going to write a book, it's totally up to you. I can help you with that as well. It's been a really amazing journey to write this book, but I had to write the book. There wasn't a choice. And I'm so glad that I did it. I think that I would have regretted that if I didn't write the book. So thankfully I did, but if I wouldn't have, that would have been my one regret, that I didn't do it. Wow, this is a good question. Did you ever want to give up? And if so, what happened? And I think I went into this a little bit as well with, I did want to give up. I called my publishers and let them know that. I remember telling my parents and my husband and the entire publishing team that I wanted to give up. I couldn't do it. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. I literally couldn't get myself off the floor. I had some 1-2 punches again in September and October and earlier in the year. I had a toxic situation throughout that entire year. I had toxic people around me in work and just so many things that were going on. And I think it all started to really come down on me in the latter part of last year. And I did want to give up so badly, but I am very glad that I didn't, because this book is so meaningful to me. And when I look at the endorsements and when I thumb through the pages of what I have accomplished and the sweat and tears that I put into this book, and my heart is just laid out in every single page, I'm so glad that I didn't give up. And for anybody out there, I really just want to encourage you and push you and challenge you to not give up on your dreams. And I remember going back the other day and rereading some of the endorsements and some of my true friends, and their words are just so beautiful. And I can't thank you enough, because that really encouraged me to keep going as well. And I needed that. So I appreciate that. Who was your support system throughout this? That's a great question as well, because I talk a lot about that kind of in my podcast. And now that I'm moving forward, it is all about who you surround yourself with and your support system. It is about making sure that you are surrounding yourself with people who are going to encourage you and uplift you and make sure that they are giving you hope and just be your rock and no judgment and hold you accountable and help you hold yourself accountable. Those were the people that I really then realized that I needed to surround myself with, because this book would never be what I wanted it to be unless I was to surround myself with those individuals. That I needed that. I really needed that, kick in the rear. I needed somebody to be there. And I think we all do. And if you look at your support system, the people that are around you, and if they're not uplifting you, filling you full of hope and love, encouragement, and just being your biggest cheerleader, please, I encourage you, reach out to me, because I have a new support system for you. I have one of the most powerful, supportive groups ever, and I'm going to be so excited to share this group with you as we move forward into this community that I am creating. But I want to tell you, you can reach out to me. Anybody that wants to do so, you may go to my website at amypost.com. That's AMYPOST.com. You can also reach out to me via email, amy@amypost.com. That's AMY@amypost.com. Let me know, shoot me a little notice that you just need some support. You need a different group of cheerleaders, and you need somebody around you, because I want to be that for you so badly. And I want you to be able to have faith in the process of what you're going through and know that there are incredible people that are out there. And I needed to be able to get out of the situation that I was in last year to be able to see those amazing people around me and those people that wanted me to succeed. And so I just want that for you as well. We're coming down to almost an hour. I have several questions that are still coming in. If anybody has any more questions, let me know. A couple more quick ones. What advice do you have for writers? Wow. I would say for anybody that is wanting to journal or write a book, whatever you're looking for, just tell your story. Unapologetic. Do not apologize for anything. Speak from the heart. I think the most impactful stories come directly from the depths of your belly and your heart. And speak through your emotions. Speak with your emotions. Let the audience really know that, let them know that you're there, you're connecting with them, you feel them, and that they're not alone. I think that that was one of the last questions that we had. So I really appreciate it. If there are more questions that come through, what we're going to do is be able to get those questions back out to you, but please reach out to me if you would like to. You can email me. You can also go on my website and you can pre-order the book there. You can add your name to the newsletter. We send out a newsletter every Tuesday, and it is just a fun way to kind of share some great podcasts with extraordinary guests. I want to kind of give you just a slight overview of what we're going to be doing next. And I know I mentioned it over the last hour that we have been talking, but the next community is going to be pretty spectacular. And I'm super excited to share with you that we're just going to honestly be raw and real. We are going to be advocating for others because everybody needs that cheerleader, and advocate for yourself as well. I mean, definitely don't do yourself a disservice in that. But we're going to dive really, really deep into advocating for yourself and others. We're going to dive into your alignment with what your goals are and what your why is. We're also going to dive into my favorite pillars. And these were pillars that I remember sketching almost in the first week or so when I landed in the hospital with my daughter. It was, oh my gosh, what are we going to do financially, personal, relationship, whether your marriage, is going to be on the brinks, whatever that looks like, and spiritual. Like, it was really hard to find my faith. So we'll dive in. We'll have some incredible guests. We will dive in, and I'm going to start allowing myself to just open up a bit more. And I've created some really cool insights and some classes that we're going to discuss on when this happens again. I'm going to be able to step back from my job. And what does that look like? We're going to dive into if something challenging happens to you and a situation arises, you lose your job or divorce or something happens that is out of your control. What do your finances look like? What is your, passive income versus active income? Tax-free vehicles that my husband and I have done for over 15 to 17 years. We're going to dive into real estate. We'll dive into tax strategies, ways to create a business, be successful. And that is going to be really fun. I get giddy when I talk about the financial side of it because that was one of the biggest concerns when I started interviewing couples and families and asked, what was your biggest concern when you went through XYZ crisis or challenge? And it was financial, the burden of losing their job, losing their home and everything that they had worked for. So that is huge. But then also personal, ways of self-care, ways to give back. We're going to have some super cool guests on here that are going to just get you right back into focus or in focus. We're going to really dig deep into that why and get you grounded with yourself. We're also going to dive into relationships and marriage. And I know I stated that my husband and I just never wanted to give up. Not one of us were going to walk away. But what do those other relationships look like? What does that 90% look like? And we're going to dive into that. We're also going to give a lot of great strategies for relieving the stress, anxiety, emotions, trauma resolution. So that's going to be super cool. And then spiritual and faith. We'll dive into some of that as well. It's going to really intertwine with some of the personal as well when we dive into kind of that peace and harmony section. So that's to come. Stay tuned. If you want to be a part of this community and what I have kind of stated to you sounds interesting, please shoot me an email at my email address that I mentioned. So it's amy@amypost.com. That's AMY@AMYPOST.com. Let me know that you're interested in the community. We want to add you and just give you some additional information that's come out. And then we're going to be putting a calendar of events out. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in with me this evening. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your time, because that's one thing that we can never get back. But thank you for all of the support and the prayers. Please keep them coming, and I will be praying for you as well. And I will see you next time. Don't miss it. My book launch is going to be Monday, May 6th. It will be a live event here in St. Louis, Missouri. It's actually at Adventure Unknown in Fenton, Missouri. The doors will open at 6:30, and then we will go live at 7 p.m. You can pre-order the book, and it will launch, and it will actually ship out on May 7th. For the book launch, we are going to do something super cool. I am going to be interviewed by the creator of the She Lift project. Cynthia is fabulous. She has a wonderful, wildly successful connections podcast. Tune into it if you haven't seen it before. But stay tuned for many great things, and I appreciate you. Thank you again. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Advocacy and Hope podcast with host Amy Post. Please check out the show notes for all of the guests' bios and information and links to follow to learn more even after the episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes, and please share it out to those who need to hear this inspiring message. You can subscribe, rate, and review all of this on your favorite podcast platform, and we sincerely thank you for spending some time with us today.